right, everybody. We are back. It's a full house again for the Backroad. Going to be the last one of the season. We are hyped to have you watching here for our 2021 season recap. If you've been watching us, especially if you've been watching us since the 2021 season preview, we're so thankful you've tuned into this show. As usual, I'm Elliot Hicks. We got Seth Woolcock, Jared Bakaysa here with us. And Seth, we got a new partner here coming on to the show. We're super excited to have them. Talk a little bit about them.
Absolutely. So sponsoring the Backroad moving forward is going to be none other than Stevens Quality Barbering Services in Kerwinsville, PA. Guys, I've been getting my hair cut. I have a hat on right now. You can't see it. I've been getting my hair cut, though, from Noah Stevens Quality Barbering Services for about 6 or 7 years now. Jared, I know you've been getting your hair cut there almost as long as well. Guys, if you want a quality haircut, at a quality price, if you want a quality conversation along the way, and just an overall quality experience, then head on over to Stevens Quality Barbering Services in Kerwinsville, PA. Whether you live in Clearfield County, Jefferson County, heck, McKean County, Center County, basically anywhere in Western PA, Central PA, head on over to Noah. If you want to book an appointment, guys, head to stevens-quality.genbook.com. Super happy to be working with Noah and the whole Stevens Quality family over there. Guys, get hooked up. That's all I have to say, man. Get hooked up from Noah. You won't regret it.
Yeah, super happy to have them on board.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
to Stevens Quality Barber for jumping on. I tell you what, if I'm ever in Kerwinsville, I know exactly where I'm getting my hair cut at. But all right, so the season's over. Man, it feels like just yesterday that we were doing the season preview show, getting this thing rolling, and now we're all done. Champions have been crowned in all three of the top series. Kyle Larson with 10 wins this year, won in the Cup Series. Daniel Hemrick finally wins the Xfinity Championship, and Ben Rhodes wins the Truck Series title. I figure we'll go from a non-fantasy perspective for a moment here. Give us a little bit of a conclusion, some of your favorite moments from the season, things like that. How did you guys think that these three series wrapped up their season, basically? Whoever wants to start, go right ahead.
Jared, lead it off, man. I know you have some strong opinions on this.
No, I thought this was a pretty good season. The Truck Series, I did watch a decent amount of the Truck Series this year. I thought it was the big surprise this year was John Hunter Nemechek with coming back. He was in the Cup Series last year, came back down to the Truck Series, which you don't usually see a lot of the times because once you're in the Cup, usually you just stay in the Cup. But he made the choice, hey, I'm going to go back down to the Truck Series, win some races, and he did just that. Came up a little bit short, and Ben Rhodes ended up winning. I don't know if you guys saw Ben Rhodes' post-race interviews. I thought that was probably the best post-race conference I've seen all year. So the Truck Series was pretty good. Kyle Busch won his truck races, so I was happy about that. Truck Series in general was just pretty good for the most part. So there were some races where it was kind of out of control, like Knoxville and Martinsville last week. But other than that, I thought the Truck Series was pretty good. Xfinity Series, which I think is the premier series of NASCAR this year, always put on good races, and that was a heck of a race. I actually watched the whole race start to finish on Saturday night and wasn't upset about the outcome of that race. And then you go on to the Cup Series, and Kyle Larson, the best driver all year, won the championship. So the most deserving driver won the race, so you can't really complain about that.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Jared. I just think it was just you look at this season and it was innovative. It was transformational in a way. I mean, we saw NASCAR take a lot of gambles. Seven road courses, Bristol dirt. Obviously, the controversial playoff format returns once again. But I loved every second of it. This was probably one of my favorite seasons ever. And I know that's crazy, and a lot of classic NASCAR fans might not like that take, but I really thought everyone came to play this season. We didn't see Kyle Larson coming in the Cup Series. That was pretty mind-blowing. And how about Daniel Hemrick, man? I mean, what a feel-good story. Get your first career Xfinity, first NASCAR victory. And do it on a stage like that, to come back, pass on the last corner like he did. Just hats off to the whole Daniel Hemrick team over there. And just everyone at NASCAR. They made it a great season, man, and I'm just really happy about the direction where the sport's heading.
Yeah, it was a great year, and in the Cup Series, it was a great walk-off season to the Gen 6 car. We'll be moving on to the next-gen car next year. With the Truck Series, I think people kind of forgot about Ben Rhodes. He came up. He was never really a heralded prospect. I remember he ran a few races with Junior Motorsports maybe 5 or 6 years ago. He's hung around in the trucks. He's just kind of been there. And it took him a while to get to this point. There were a lot of times where he was kind of a back marker in trucks, things like that. People kind of forgot about him, and I don't think they'll forget about him now. I think that he may be an underrated riser to the top level potentially soon. In Xfinity, for so long, man, is Daniel Hemrick ever going to win a race? I don't think he's ever going to do it. He's been snake bitten so many times, so many bad things. Everything in the book that could happen to Daniel Hemrick happened to him, and he finally gets it done. And I also watched that race. I was, shouting at the TV, man, you got to get this done, that last restart. Because when you think about it, even though it's awesome he got the championship and it's awesome that he did what he did, he had to use up Cindric there. That's the best opportunity that Hemrick is probably ever going to have again, because he's heading to Kaulig next year. They have good equipment. It's not a Joe Gibbs car. Is he ever going to get a Joe Gibbs ride in the Cup Series? Probably not. That's his bet. That's the best car that he's ever going to drive again for the rest of his life. He got it done. He won the title, and I'm proud of the man. And in the Cup Series, the best driver won. That's really all you have to say. Regardless of what you think about the playoff format, whether you like these Game 7 moments or whether you just want a straight season-long driver title, the best man won. So I feel like nobody can be mad about that.
And the big thing here, I think, about this season, guys, is like legacies were really defined in NASCAR. Kyle Larson puts himself in a category of one of the most elite drivers we've ever seen, not just in NASCAR, but worldwide. We see Denny Hamlin team up with Michael Jordan, XI 2023 Racing. Like, we saw that. That was amazing to see. Bubba Wallace gets his first victory. And then, like you said, Daniel Hemrick. Like, that was a career-defining moment from Daniel Hemrick on Saturday night. So I just think overall, people define their careers. You're not always going to be loved, as we saw Denny Hamlin kind of have a villain moment here after Martinsville a couple weeks ago. But and then, of course, the whole Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott headlines that carried throughout the fall as well. But, I mean, just career-defining and legacy building is what I think we saw a lot of this season.
I thought it was pretty cool seeing Kyle Larson just win at every single possible racetrack. You throw him a road course where he's never won before, and he goes out and wins a couple road courses. He goes off and wins the races where you think, he's not going to make the cut line. He goes off and wins, like at the Roval. And then he just, even outside of NASCAR, he's going out racing dirt cars, and he's winning like the crown jewels and dirt cars too. He won the NOS Energy Drink Sprint Cars Knoxville Nationals, and then he goes on to Indy Road Course literally the next day and almost wins that race. So it's like whatever he drives, he can probably win in.
Yeah, and with Larson, it was so dominant. Something that we don't even realize just because he was so dominant all year. He won half the playoff races, and he won 4 out of the last 5 of the season, other than Martinsville. So
do you guys remember too the beginning of the season, how fun that was with, I think, 10 different winners right off the bat? Like, that was pretty unprecedented as well. So like we saw a lot of first time winners. Christopher Bell gets a couple under his belt. Bubba Wallace,
Michael McDowell, baby.
Yeah, I mean
500. Yep.
And we saw like people take a step. Like, say what you want about Alex Bowman, but he took a step this year. Ryan Blaney took a step forward. William Byron took a step forward. Like, we saw these guys who've always kind of, I don't want to say underachieved, but we knew the talent was there. They took the next step, man. I mean, I think this just sets up for a wild 2022 season coming our way.
Right, and we'll get to 2022 in a moment. We got to recap 2021 first because it was absolutely wild. So we have some points here, things we were wrong about, things we were right about. I'm going to read off our preseason top 10. I went back and looked at it 10 minutes before we're taping. No, we didn't do that bad. You laugh. We didn't do that bad.
Really?
So 10th, we had Kurt Busch. He got a win this year. He ran fairly well. He had a Kurt Busch season. I think that's fair. 9th, we had Ryan Blaney. We were a little low on him. I feel like that was fair.
I was low on him, yeah.
He had a good year. We were low on him. 8th, we had Alex Bowman. Say what you want about his inconsistencies this year. As Denny Hamlin pointed out after Martinsville, he was the worst Hendrick driver this year in a lot of stats. 4 Ws. So that was a fair spot to put him. 7th, we had Martin Truex Jr. Again, a guy we were a little low on. 6th, we had Kyle Busch. I feel like that's about the perfect spot for AFB. He was able to rebound. He was able to get a few more wins. Still didn't quite get what he needed to. 5th, we were really high on this guy, Brad Keselowski, and we were not expecting him to have the year that he had, a down year by Brad's standards. 4th, Joey Logano, same story, kind of a down year. We'll get more into that in a little bit. 3rd, we had Denny Hamlin. Good spot there, even though he only won 2 races. I think he had either the best or the second best average finish. 2nd was a guy we were way too high on, Kevin Harvick, but nobody could have expected the struggles from Stuart Haas. And at number 1, we had Chase Elliott, and I think we were way too high on him as well. He had a decent year. He had 2 wins, and he didn't win on an oval. One of his wins was rain shortened. It was not the year Chase Elliott wanted to have. So that was our preseason top 10. Some things we did well on, some things we didn't go too well on. Let's break into some of our other points that we missed and some that we hit home runs on.
I think the big one, I don't want to bury the lead here, but we were obviously, like a lot of NASCAR fans, fantasy NASCAR analysts out there, we were way too low on Kyle Larson. No one put him in their top 10. We didn't know what to expect. I mean, you take that long out of a cup car, and we didn't know what to expect. But obviously, I mean, I will say I think we adjusted as a NASCAR, fantasy NASCAR community and a show here. We adjusted pretty quickly and realized how elite he is. But I mean, it definitely took a couple weeks, even to in one of our redraft NASCAR leagues. I remember we saw Kyle Larson being kept over Denny Hamlin. I think just maybe 3 or 6 weeks into the season, still early season, but that was really the telltale sign that we were way too low on Kyle Larson.
Yeah, I agree. I think going into the season, it was just more of the unknowns, like he wasn't getting any sponsor offers, and Hendrick had to throw money out in their pocket, and it ended up being a pretty good deal for him because now he just signed, I think, a 2-year extension with that, and you're going to see that iconic, I guess it's going to be an iconic scheme now at HendrickCars.com, so you expect to see that red, white, and blue number 5 car out there for the next couple years.
Right. We definitely undervalued him, but it was fair. We didn't know what was going to happen. Chip Ganassi, of course, that equipment limited him, as we now see. And that team, he took the 48 team that was Jimmy Johnson's that hadn't won a race in years. They had Cliff Daniels was not even the first choice crew chief there. They had, I believe, Kevin Mendering in there for Jimmy Johnson before going to Cliff Daniels, maybe even somebody else in between that. But Larson proved us all wrong. And we also overvalued quite a few other things. We overvalued some rookies early. We kind of overvalued the new teams, 2311 and Trackhouse. And we definitely overvalued Kevin Harvick, but who expected Stewart-Haas Racing to be that bad? And Kevin Harvick, I believe I heard it was his first winless season since, I think it was 2009 or something ridiculous like that. He'd pulled off at least one win in most of the last 10 years and could not find victory lane this year.
Yeah, I mean, super disappointing. And I will give us credit a little bit. You guys pointed out, I think on our second episode ever, that Stewart-Haas Racing was just not looking good early. We kind of abandoned that in all redraft formats. We weren't really drafting them in DFS. And yeah, I think you really hit it there too, Elliot. I was definitely a little bit too high on some of these guys early in the season. Bubba Wallace with 23XI. We saw Daniel Suarez get off to a really hot start too. And I know at one point you threw him in your top 10 rankings too, Elliot. I mean, gave him a little nod for sure, but I mean, kind of fell apart after that. So, I mean, I personally came in so hot on Chase Briscoe. I mean, I don't think we expected a lot out of Anthony Alfredo in the 38 there, but
well, we know what Jared thought of him.
It's like every single week, whether it be a tweet on Twitter, like caution Anthony Alfredo, and I was like every single time that happens, I just want to tweet scheduled tweet again. Anthony Alfredo's in the wall.
Yeah.
Again, not to jump too early to 2022 here, but that's one of the nice things I think we'll see with how the driver shakeup is. We don't know what's happening to that 38 car, so Alfredo could be gone. Starcom is done, so no more Quinn Houff caution every week. Rick Ware Racing probably going to have less than 4 teams. No more 7 Rick Ware cautions a week. But
Chase Elliott really didn't have a true hangover championship thing. I mean, he finished second how many times to Kyle Larson? He was in contention to win a lot of races. It was just he couldn't really finish it off on the oval races. I mean, heck, he was 60 laps away from winning the Phoenix race. So I think it was more of Larson just used what Hendrick gave him a lot more than what Chase was able to. And I think it was also Kyle Larson was on a redemption tour of his own. So I think he was out there to win every week.
Yeah, agreed. I think, definitely too high on Chase Elliott, too high on Kevin Harvick coming into the season. But what are you going to do? I mean, they looked like they had some great equipment coming into the year, and Chase coming off a burner that, he just won the 2020 title. I had high hopes for him. I think I drafted him at 101 in one of our redraft leagues. So egg on my face a little bit, but like you guys said, I mean, I just don't think I really expected the rest of the Hendricks cars to emerge like this. I knew Alex Bowman was a guy. He's a streaky racer. He could go out and get a W or two. But, I mean, William Byron was on a top 10 streak, early in the season forever. And he was just a DFS gold mine for a long time. So, I mean, we definitely got that wrong too. But I think we figured it out pretty early on that the Hendricks guys were the team to have.
I think Fords in general also we had a lot high. I mean, they had a couple wins, but they were also restrictor plate wins. I mean, Michael McDowell's was on Daytona, Brad Keselowski was at Talladega, the dirt race, which was a wild card anyways. So I don't really count that as something to look for on stats because we don't race at dirt all the time. So Ryan Blaney won at Daytona. He won at Michigan, which is a 550 track. So I just don't think the Fords really had like the power this year. So I don't know what was going on with the whole Ford camp, even in the Xfinity series. I know there was only one real Ford driver in the Xfinity series, but Austin Cindric didn't really have that many wins this year either. So I think the Ford program in a whole was a little bit on a down year. I don't know if they're just focusing more on the next gen, which I could see that too for next year. Because even like RCR, like they had both guys in the playoffs last year, and then they didn't have any of them in that this year. So I don't know, maybe they're looking forward to 2022 or just time caught up with them. And
yeah, RCR did have Reddick sneak in, but they didn't win.
I guess Reddick. Okay,
yes. What was it? 16th.
Your point,
16th, yeah.
Your point still stands. But as much as we missed on, we definitely hit some home runs too. Seth, you mentioned about William Byron. We were on William Byron, and we were on Ross Chastain late in the year too. They had some hot streaks. Like we said, we were pretty right on some of the Penske guys. Kyle Busch, we had well. Hamlin, we had well. The two best ones, though, I remember early in the year, Seth, you mentioned I had Suarez in my top 10. At one point, I had Michael McDowell like 7th, I think.
You did.
You didn't buy his flash in the pan, and I definitely shouldn't have. That kind of tanked, and of course, he was very, very easily the worst driver in the playoffs this year. The best one of the year, though, was one that I missed. Just Seth and Jared doing that one. JB called Eric Almirola's upset win at New Hampshire. I still think that's probably our best moment of the season for sure.
Yeah, I was completely surprised when that actually happened, and I'm not even gonna lie. I completely forgot that I called that. Like I was looking at Almirola winning that just based off stats, but like once it got into the race time, I was really high on Christopher Bell just based off how he ran in the Xfinity race. Then I'm like, oh, this might be close. I might win some money here, and I should have put my money where the mouth. What's that called? Mouth where your
money where your mouth is.
Your money where your mouth is. Yeah.
I didn't put a lot of which with the odds probably were super high, and I did not take it as much as I could have gotten.
That was a hilarious moment. I remember it was about 10 laps left in that race. It looked like Almirola might actually win it. And I was like, I'm pretty sure Jared called that in our show. I went back, I watched it on YouTube, I saw it again. I was like, oh wow, he really did say that. So hats off to you on that call, Jared. That's why we love our sleepers and keepers segment. We'll definitely have to keep that around going into next year.
Yeah, and we'll keep it around. You may even only have to wait a couple more minutes to hear our next sleepers and keepers. But
yes,
the 2021 was pretty great. 2022 in the Cup Series, we have really no idea what the hell is going to happen because we're moving into the next-gen cars. We got some rookies coming in. Not a big rookie class, but some competitive ones. Austin Cindric is going to take the famous Penske 2 car. Harrison Burton replacing Matt DiBenedetto, who took a bit of a heel turn and is now probably not going to find a ride anywhere. But in any case, you could even count Justin Haley. He's run crummy Spire cars, and now he'll be in a Collard car, and they're going to come out to compete. So he almost reminds me of, Bowman ran some crummy cars. Everyone called him a rookie that first year, and he's done well since. So we could see the same from Justin Haley. And Brad Keselowski moving to the 6 car is going to be a big storyline. We're going to see quite a few things. And in terms of it's going to have some DFS impact as well, some notes we have here. You got to have more lineup diversity. And the move-up points that you get some points based on how many drivers or based on how many positions a driver improves from their qualifying spot to their race finish. Qualifying is back next year, almost certainly going to be back for every race. That's going to be very important as well. So I threw a lot at you there. Give us some things to look for heading into next season.
Yeah, I want to stay with DFS for a second because this was really our first big year as a company getting into DFS. And I definitely learned a lot from our golf DFS show, the 19th hole, as well as our tailgate show, the DFS tailgate out on Sunday mornings during the NFL season. And the one thing with these lineups, whether you're playing DraftKings or whatever you're playing, FanDuel, you need to have diversity in your lineups. A lot of people towards the end of the season, you'd go on there. I mean, Kyle Larson, rightfully so, but he was rostered in so many percentage of leagues. You have to be able to mix it up a little bit. You have to be like, you can have the guys that place maybe, 1 through 5, but if everyone else has those guys too, that's not going to do you that much good. So you got to keep an eye on those ownership, those rostership percentages. and make adjustments based off that, because there were definitely some races where guys who were a little lower coming into that race. Kyle Busch, I know I put on a little bit on a couple of my rosters, and he came through at times where he was like down. So just mixing up that, I think, is a big thing I learned from a DFS angle, at least.
Yeah, I'll just say I think what we could look at next year is actually like the rookie class, because if you really think about it, I think everyone's going to be really a rookie with this new car. I know there's been guys that have tested it, but still, it's just a test session right now, and they still haven't really finalized what all the new car is going to be at from last I knew. So I think these rookies that are moving up are actually in a really good spot. Like, I know people are saying like, hey, Austin Cindric might be more cup ready than Harrison Burton, but you also have to look like, hey, those two are both running the exact same new car that everyone in all the veteran cup drivers are doing. So everyone's going to be doing that learning experience. So I think if you were a rookie NASCAR driver, like you're like Justin Haley or Austin Cindric or Harrison Burton, I think now is like the perfect time to move up to the Cup Series, just because of that new car. And you're basically right on start 0.0 with everyone else in the Cup Series.
I think you're super valid with that, Jay. The only thing I'm going to say is, like, one of my notes going into next season is I'm going to try to avoid rookie fever a little bit. I had Chase Briscoe in a lot of DFS lineups, a lot of season-long lineups early in the year. So I'm going to just like pull back my expectations a little bit. I do agree with you, though. I mean, this is a pretty cup-ready class when you look across the board here. Haley already has a career victory. And then Cindric and Burton, obviously, their resumes speak for themselves. But yeah, I mean, it's been a tough go for rookies, at least in that beginning half this season. So I think if I am drafting a redraft team, it's more like I'm going to wait for them to have maybe one or two bad races and then pounce in a trade or something like that, maybe.
I think it'll be nice with qualifying and hopefully more practice than what they're saying right now. So that's something maybe if you're going to try to set your lineups, maybe tune into that practice and see what kind of speeds they're running compared to other guys when it comes to like head-to-head type of stuff. But definitely having practice and stuff will help you with your lineups.
Love that.
Yeah, and that's something that's also going to help the previous two rookie classes, the guys who came in this year and the guys who came in 2020, no practice for most, if not all of those seasons. Those guys may get a little bit of a jump too, so that could help. But all right, so we mentioned sleepers and keepers. We got one more. We're going to get some sleepers and some keepers heading into 2022. Of course, I'm sure these are going to change by the time that we drop our season preview show. But a sleeper and a keeper heading into next season. My sleeper, Daniel Suarez in that Trackhouse number 99. They were a first-year team this year. We may have overvalued them a little bit, but the game changer was they purchased Chip Ganassi Racing. They got the charter assets. They got everything they need to make that jump. And even though Chip Ganassi Racing, they were a good team, you could consistently count on them for, anywhere from 1 to 3 wins a season, depending on the drivers that they had. I think that partnership in particular of Suarez and Ross Chastain, these are guys who still have age on their side. Suarez is a guy who has never been the main focus of a team that's been half decent. The last time he was the main focus, 2016 Xfinity, Joe Gibbs Racing. What does he do? He wins the Xfinity title that year. He's going to be one to watch. So there's my sleeper. Seth, who's your sleeper?
Yeah, I definitely like Daniel Suarez there, Elliot. My sleeper for 2022. I know I just said tempt expectations for these rookies, but I'm going Justin Haley. And I think it's just more about the team. I really do believe in colleague racing here. I mean, obviously, they're not just a brand new team like XI was or like Trackhouse. They've had cars up in the Cup Series, just not full-time yet. So
they already have a Cup win, too, something to remember. Haley has a Cup win, and Allmendinger won Indy Road Course this year.
Yes, exactly. So I definitely think that colleague racing, I think they have a lot to prove. This is a good time for them to get into it as well. And like when it comes to our redrafts here in January, February, like let's be honest, Austin Cindric's going to get taken, Harrison Burton's going to get taken probably a good bit before Justin Haley. He's a guy you can probably pick up as your driver 5 or 6, and I just think he's a talented guy. I mean, let's be honest when it comes to him, guys. He's had 2 years with 20 plus top 10 finishes in the Xfinity Series. He has that rain shortened delay at Daytona win a couple years back in one of his first Cup car starts. And then he had 2 top 10s this year in Cup, with some shabby equipment. So I think it's going to get better for him. And he's a guy who, even in DFS lineups, I'm excited to play in early 2022 because he's always been a guy who finishes higher than he starts. So Justin Haley, he's a guy I want on my redraft teams as a driver 5 or 6, and I'm comfortable playing in DFS lineups early in 2022. Jared, who you got for us for your sleeper?
All right. Well, for my sleeper, I know you told me before the show this isn't really a sleeper, but I think Joey Logano is going to be my sleeper next year. Now, hear me out with this one. I have some stats to back me up on this one. Joey Logano has had his worst statistical season since 2017. All right, he only had one win, which was on dirt, and he has not had a one-win season since 2017. He also has his lowest top 10s since 2017. He only had 10. And he's had his lowest amount of top 10s since 2017 and least amount of laps led since 2017. All right. So I think maybe next year with this next gen car, I think he's going to turn some things around. And if you really want to look at some patterns and statistics with Championship 4 appearances, he made the Championship 4 in 2014, 2016, 2018, 2020. Next year's 2022. It's also 2022. What two numbers has Joey Logano driven in his career? The 20 and the 22. I had to get that. I'm sorry, I had to get that in there. But yeah, I think especially after the downer season that he kind of had this year, I think next year he's gonna have Austin Cindric as a teammate. So I think I feel like he was kind of like the third car this year out of the group, because I know Brad Keselowski was kind of like running up there late in the season, but I just didn't really hear Joey Logano's name this year. Like I said, he's had the least amount of laps led since 2017. I think he had 900. He had almost 1,000 laps led last year, and he dipped down to 400. But like, you just don't see him like up there leading laps like you would normally see Joey Logano, because usually you'd see Joey Logano at their like Michigan's or Kansas or those 1.5 mile tracks where he's just like running away with it. But this year it's just like Ryan Blaney was always outrunning him. You'd always hear Ryan Blaney's name. You'd hear Brad Keselowski every once in a while, and Joey Logano was just he's there. So I think maybe Austin, like I said, Austin Cindric's going to be a rookie, so I think he's going to be a little bit slower than Logano will be, especially like with learning this new car. I think Joey Logano is a real smart guy out there, especially based off his analysis. If you ever listen to the Xfinity series with him broadcasting, he really knows what he's doing, and I think he's one of those guys that'll probably figure out the new car a little bit faster than some of the other guys. But he's my sleeper for next year, especially since he had a lower statistical season this year compared to previous years.
Yeah, I like that point a lot, bringing up Logano as a sleeper, because next year, this coming season, is a big crossroads for Penske, which is wild to say for a team that's been the best Ford team for years now. Having Brad Keselowski, who has been, this is kind of a hot take here, I think Keselowski probably the best driver in NASCAR that Penske has had in terms of spending the bulk of your career there, having your success there. Having him leave is going to be major for them. Can Ryan Blaney continue to step up and be a superstar? Can Logano rebound, or is he officially on the downhill? And what will Cindric do in his rookie year? So that's going to be interesting to watch. Maybe we're sitting here next February saying the same things about Penske as we did about Stewart Haas. What the hell happened to him? We got to stay away from him. That would be too hot of a take, I think, to make that official. So we'll go ahead and sidestep that real quick, and we'll go to my keeper. I'm sticking with Martin Truex Jr. in that number 19. I think that with James Small, they've built a good relationship now between driver and crew chief. Truex is on the record saying he's not going to hang around very long if he doesn't like the next-gen car, but he's consistently been there in the championship for consistently ripping off a couple wins a year. Joe Gibbs Racing still going to be successful. I think Truex is going to keep it rolling next year. And some of the stats that we've seen, he finished second again in this championship race. He's been second in 3 championship 4s since his title in 2017. So if things had gone a different way, Martin Truex Jr. could be sitting here as a 4-time champion. So this guy still has what it takes. He's still on the top of his game. And if he can figure out the next-gen car and if he likes it, watch out.
I love that, Elliot. Right, I've always been a huge fan of Martin Truex Jr. since his early days, so love that one. My 2022 keeper is actually probably a little bit surprising if you have tuned in throughout the season. I was low on Ryan Blaney coming into 2021, and I love him as a driver. I have his autograph back there on the drawing that Jared made me actually. So,
cool.
Yeah, but love the guy, but I was worried a little bit coming into the season. He wasn't running very good early on in the season. He was pretty inconsistent at some of those early tracks, but we saw him emerge this year. We saw him emerge. We saw him take that next step as a driver that we need to see. He'd only had one victory each season coming into this year. He got 3 this year. Kind of got that little monkey off his back as well. As we mentioned already, there's no more Brad Keselowski, so he really does solidify himself as either the number 1 or the number 2 at Penske. And I call it gut call, but I just feel like it's his time. We've seen Chase Elliott step up. We've seen Kyle Larson this year step up and get a title. Like if you look around right now, NASCAR, guys that don't have titles that probably deserve one or are talented enough to get one, obviously Denny Hamlin's at the top of that list. But right below that is Ryan Blaney. So I'm looking at him to capitalize after a great 2021 year. He's a young guy. I think he can adapt this next generation car. Career high in wins, career high in top 10s this year, 20 of them, and career high in average finish, 9.6. So everything for me is wheels up on Ryan Blaney in 2022.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you on that. I think Ryan Blaney's pretty much solidified himself as like, hey, I want to be the number 1 guy here at Penske, especially after he led the team with the most wins. And I think a lot of it had to do, I think it was last year he signed that extension with them. So I think after he got that extension, because there was a bunch of rumors going around like, oh, he might not be at Penske or something. I think that kind of motivated him to be like, all right, I'm going to stick here. I'm going to be the number 1 guy here. And he really proved it this year, I think. I know he came up a little bit short, but he was always there this year. He was always in contention for wins. Everyone was like, oh, Ryan Blaney might win this week. Oh, Ryan Blaney might win this week. So I definitely think that something clicked with him, and I think he's ready to like take it to the next level, like you said.
Agreed. Jared, who you got for us for your keeper heading into next year, man?
I feel like just because with my driver choices, I feel like this might backfire, but I'm going to go with the cliche thing. I think you can't go against Kyle Larson. I mean, we're getting a new car, but honestly, with Kyle, if you've seen Kyle Larson race any other series, that will not matter at all to him. I mean, heck, the year he wasn't in NASCAR, he hopped in a late model car for the first time ever, and I think he won the race. So I think it does not really matter what kind of car Kyle Larson's in. I mean, you throw him in an Indy car, I'm pretty sure he'll probably get you a top 10, top 5. Heck, he might even win. Like if he goes to the Indy 500 some year, I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes top 5 or even wins the thing. So I think with the next gen car coming, I think Kyle Larson's going to easily pick that up. And if he's putting up statistics like he did this year, like I think he broke Jeff Gordon's record for most laps led in a season. He did what Tony Stewart did, won half the playoff races. He did what Jimmy Johnson did and win four of the last 5 races, I think. And heck, what else did he accomplish this year? 10 wins in a whole season. Jimmy Johnson
laps led in a season. I don't know if you mentioned that as well, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like he literally did every single thing possible record breaking wise you could even think of. And you even look back at some of the races where some late struggles happened to him. Like we could be saying like, oh, Kyle Larson won 15 races this year. And that's just a NASCAR. You look over at sprint cars, he's won, I think, a couple races there. You look at late models, he's won a couple races there. And it's not just like your average short track race. He's going over and winning like their crown jewel events. Like, you know, NASCAR has its crown jewels of like Daytona, Darlington. He's over there winning sprint car crown jewels, late model crown jewels. So it's like that old Jimmy Johnson game, like anything with a wheel, or what's that called? What's that game called?
Anything with an engine.
Anything with an engine. That's like Kyle Larson. Like you could throw him on some lawnmower racing, and I'm pretty sure he'd probably find a way to win.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Love that, man.
I could not agree with that more. And I think if you're going into a league next year and Kyle Larson is not the unanimous 1.01, you're doing something wrong. Or if you got the 1.02, you got real lucky to grab a guy like Kyle Larson. I think he's got to be the favorite. But in any case, let's take one more ride down the Backroad stories, and let's talk about some of our favorite memories from the 2021 season. Whichever one of you wants to start.
Jared, I'm going to go ahead and pass this on to you, man. I know you became, really a focal point of the NASCAR community this year, especially in the Twitter sphere. So why don't you tell us about some of your favorite memories of the season, man?
I think just this whole season in general, like even outside of the racing itself and everything, just like the people that I've like met on Twitter this year, like heck, I've met so many different friends that a year ago today I didn't even know or was even following. And heck, me and Elliot, you got to meet some of the guys that I talked to on Twitter, and we're always conversing. Is it conversing or conversating? I don't know my English on that.
You're always tweeting at each other. We don't.
Yeah, we're always tweeting at each other. We're always liking each other's stuff, sharing each other's stuff. Like I know there's that toxic side of NASCAR Twitter, but like the group that I have on there, I think we all pick on each other about stuff, but it's all like all for fun. So that's one of my favorite things. Me and Elliot's trip to Richmond was probably up there as one of my favorite things. Seeing a new track and just enjoying a weekend somewhere with one of your friends, that's pretty memorable and cool and special, and you get all the merchandise and stuff that we got there. Spent way too much money down there, so that was my favorite thing. Not the spending money part, but definitely just the experience itself. But I get in all reality, and then we'll also add in too, just being biased here. My favorite memory of the season was my Pocono 2 when Kyle Busch won. Car was stuck in fourth gear on a fuel mileage race, which we don't really get to see anymore. And heck, it could even be his last win. So
that was great. Elliot, what do you got for us, man? Any favorite memories?
Yeah, I mean, first I have to go with the Richmond trip. Going to my first race in 10 years. That was so much fun. I think the only thing that could have made that any better was if our crummy hotel TV would have let us plug in Jared's old Xbox so we could play some NASCAR Thunder 2002 in between races. That was definitely awesome. And for a Bowman fan, the question was coming into the year, can this dude win more than one race a year? Can he be consistent? Was he consistent? No. But he won 4 races. You can argue that he lucked into, 2, 3, maybe even all 4 of those. But that was so much fun. And, I went through this the other day when Dale Earnhardt Jr., who was my favorite driver before Bowman was racing, he won 26 Cup races. I went through, I only got to watch like 3 of those live. Either I was too young or other things were going on and I missed them. So getting to see all of Bowman's wins this year, getting to watch the checkered flag live for all of them, getting those moments to celebrate, getting those moments to yell at the TV. That Martinsville win was the most excited I'd been for a win since those days, one of those Daytona wins or something like that. So that was definitely super cool as well. And hoping that we're going to keep it rolling for that 48 team. Nobody likes us anyway. And he's the best hack you've ever seen. Let's just say that.
Love that. I guess I'll round us out here with my favorite memory. And it's actually one that came over the weekend here. I was actually at a wedding Saturday night, so I didn't get to catch the start or most of the Xfinity race, but afterwards we went to a local bar, and I was in there with my future father-in-law, future brother-in-law, and luckily my future brother-in-law had pulled up the Xfinity race on his phone. So we're huddled around a table, drinking some Bud Lights, having a good time, and I just see one of the most improbable wins ever, Daniel Hemrick pulling off. Like, we just caught it on the last restart. So it was amazing, timing to catch that. And just to like see the emotion on that guy's face and like how bad that guy wanted it, to see that, just like, obviously a little tuned up at the same time, but overall it's just an awesome experience and normally I watch a lot of races by myself or with Katie, who's not super into it. So to witness that with other people who, really knew the backstory to Hemrick and really appreciate it, made it all much more special. So that I would definitely have to say that was probably one of my favorite moments of the season.
How about that backflip too? That was fun.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. Yes,
about time. Hasn't seen that since 2016. Like, let's go.
Shades of Carl Edwards there for sure.
And I would also like to make an amendment and add one more of my favorite memories of the season. And that's being here with you guys. This is our first time at In Between Media having a fantasy NASCAR show. Elliot, now for 2 seasons in a row, man, you've done an awesome job with your Through the Field column. That's been out almost every other Saturday here throughout the regular season of the fantasy football season, and it's been every other week, since the beginning of this thing. So, I mean, thank you guys for coming along this journey with me. Thank you guys for coming down the back road with me. I mean, it's been a blast, and hats off to our producer in the back end, Third and Short. We couldn't do this without him as well. And just all our fans, the audience out there, everyone who takes a second to like, watch, subscribe, all of that, man. I mean, we appreciate it so much, and we couldn't do this without you guys. So thank you.
Yeah, big shout out as well to Sean Seaman, who was our producer for those first few episodes, and all the guests we had. Yeah, it was great to have quite a few nice guests on the show.
Absolutely,
super grateful to have them join us. And like I said, well, Jared, I'll let you, if you have any final words before I give a little sign off here.
Hey, this was fun. You guys kind of really got me into the podcasting thing. I ended up guest starring on a bunch of podcasts. So I'll just shout out Left Turn Call, shout out Chairgate, and shout out Loose Slugs podcast. And it really didn't really start before all this started. So if I didn't do this, I probably would not have done that and met a lot of people as we did. So definitely like doing podcasts now. I'm probably going to be starting another one, JB Graphics podcast. So definitely be on a lookout for that in the future. I know Elliot was on my Fourth Gear podcast, which we're still in the works of trying to figure that out again. Both me and my co-host there still have conflicting schedules. That doesn't really work right now, but we'll get back on that eventually. But definitely just follow the at PK Jared 9 here, or follow my graphics page at JB_graphics 2_.
Love it, man. Congrats on everything you're doing, Jared. I love it, man.
Thank you.
Yep. So it's been a great season. We've had a great time doing this. Thank you so much again to everyone who's watched, everyone who's commented, everyone who's been on the show, everything like that. We've been riding down the back road, and it's been a good ride. We're coming back home. We're pulling into the garage. We're putting her in park. We'll enjoy the winter, and we'll see you again in the, well, I guess it'll still be the winter in February, but we'll call it the spring. We'll see you again when we get close to Daytona. It's going to be a fun one. Thanks again for watching.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.